Have you ever heard of the Pony Factory? You know, that game where people get taken from the local town and transformed into undead pony abominations? No? Well, have you ever heard about Chop Goblins? Or Squirrel Stapler? Or how about Iron Lung? If you haven't already guessed by now, all of these games were made by the infamous Dusk Dev. While they may be miles apart thematically, they actually share a lot of similarities when you dig a little deeper. There's even a couple references in there that could be used as proof of these games taking place in the same universe. If you've already heard about the Pony Factory, you're probably wondering why I'm playing it now, years after it first came out in the original Dread X collection. But the game I'm playing here isn't the same one you might have seen back in 2020. Much like Squirrel Stapler a couple months ago, the Pony Factory recently received the standalone treatment, which means many parts of the game were recently updated or improved before being released as its own thing on Steam, separate from the Dread X collection. And since I had never actually played the first Dread X collection, I figured now was a good time to give the Pony Factory a shot. Oh, and also because I just released my own game, Ad Infernum, so my work schedule has been completely packed with things to do. A quick little video on a game that may or may not be related to Squirrel Stapler seemed like a nice break from all the dev work I've been doing. And when I say quick, this game was definitely quick. I clocked in at about 30 minutes, with a bit of time spent looking around to try and discern how different things were made. Being that both this and Squirrel Stapler were intended to be small anthology entries, the short runtime makes sense, but it's still worth mentioning. I don't feel like the game wore out its welcome or anything. I mean, much like Squirrel Stapler and even Iron Lung, the developer makes a pretty great use of a short time window and knows when to end things. I think this is a pretty valuable lesson for amateur devs. You don't need to drag out 30 minutes of content into a tedious 2 hours just because Steam refunds are a thing. If you've got enough to keep people interested for that long, that's great. Otherwise, just keep it short and simple and end on a high note. It'll be way more memorable. But I digress. What's the deal with the Pony Factory anyways? Well, it's sort of Amnesia, a machine for pigs, except people are being turned into evil ponies instead of pigmen. I honestly don't know if Amnesia, a machine for pigs was an influence here, but I'm really surprised I've never seen anyone mention it. I mean, the game follows the same structure of venturing into this big evil factory, destroying the thing that makes these demonic creatures, and then trying to find your way out at the end. Except the Pony Factory actually has gameplay. Sorry, Machine for Pigs, you had a great ending, but everything else was pretty meh. Most of your time in the Pony Factory will be spent creeping through very dark, grungy factory interiors, somewhat reminiscent of the urban decay you'd see in games like Condemned, which makes complete sense when you hear that Dusk Dev's upcoming project is a Condemned-style horror brawler. I'm definitely looking forward to playing that, but man, I really keep going off topic in this video, huh? Anyways, the overwhelming darkness in the Pony Factory isn't just for scares, it actually plays into the main gameplay loop. The demon pony people lurking in the factory are out to get you, so you obviously have to shoot them to progress. But you can't use your flashlight at the same time as your gun, so you're constantly juggling the decision to either see things or fire blindly into the darkness. Your gunshots briefly illuminate the surroundings, giving you a bit of vision, but it makes the fights feel a lot more cinematic. There are also some rooms with windows that let in light, so you can lure enemies out of dark hallways into a more even playing field. Even though these mechanics are pretty simplistic, they all work together quite well, leading to an interesting balancing act between vision and combat. Aside from the combat and some minor hazards, the real driving force in this game is the handful of notes scattered around the factory. Much like Squirrel Stapler, they're generally pretty silly concepts written as if they're completely serious real-world events. I mean, a human-pony hybrid tank invented by Fred Flintstone? Surely they were cooking with this one. There's even mention of a sin pipeline connected to a nearby forest, which is undoubtedly a reference to Squirrel Stapler. I also love that the final message from the mysterious CEO includes a written transcription of his final screams, followed by his full signature. Just the cherry on top of this ridiculous cake. Anyways, shortly after that note, you grab the mysterious energy orb from hell and haul it out of the factory. The trip out takes you back the same way you came, with mixed up enemies, items, and lighting. I kinda dig this in and out format in short games like this. It's a neat way to remix familiar areas into something new, as long as it's not overdone. Anyways, the game ends with a screen explaining that our protagonist plans to start his own pony factory, beginning the cycle anew. Overall, I enjoyed the Pony Factory, even if it felt pretty bare bones for a standalone experience. There are alternate modes like instant death, but I didn't opt to try them out. Of the 4 short Dusk Dev games I've played, I don't think it'd be fair to rank them straight against each other, because they're all going for completely different things. I think Iron Lung is the spookiest and most memorable of the bunch, but Squirrel Stapler is probably my favorite on a conceptual level. Chop Goblins definitely had the most going for it gameplay-wise, which kind of leaves the Pony Factory as the odd one out. I dig the light and darkness mechanics, and the notes gave me a chuckle or two, but I'd probably only recommend it as a follow-up game for those who already liked Squirrel Stapler or something. That said, I'm still drawn to it on a technical level. Like all his games, there's a lot going on in a deceptively small package. It might be worth taking a deeper look into this game like I did with Squirrel Stapler, or not. I mean, it's not like I'm looking for more things to do at this point. Like I said before, my game Ad Infernum just released, so post-release bug fixes and new content updates are taking up all of my time. If you like survival horror games and want to support me, why not check it out? Or you could just subscribe to the channel. That's always helpful too. I'm actually chipping away at a big video idea in between my game dev work, so if all goes well, I should have something pretty fun to show in the next couple weeks. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Until next time, folks, have a good one.